Welcome to our Demandbase LinkedIn Live event. This is Vanessa Willett speaking, and we're super excited to have you here today. As the title suggests, we're going to talk about advertising with impact and zero waste. And before we get started, I want to also introduce you to Alicia Alongi, Senior Strategy Director of B2B at Goodway. Today's format is a live event, so we're streaming live from LinkedIn. This is meant to be a casual conversation where we're really bringing to our audience the questions that we're hearing most from our customers and prospects around how to do more with less. And the headlines of today is the recession, people are having to cut back, but generally speaking, there is you should always be doing more with less, right? Every dollar that you spend should have impact, and there should be zero waste. And so we're really excited to talk through what our prospects and customers are faced with. And so again, if you have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box, and we'll try to answer them through this session. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our premier partner, Alicia Alongi from Goodway, and she's going to talk through their B2B practice and why we're here today to talk about account-based advertising, the impact, and zero waste. With that, Alicia, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, I think we started this relationship with Demandbase earlier this year, and we were hearing from our B2B clients that they were very interested in ABM, not exactly sure how to go to market with it. I think we had, clients with different levels of familiarity or understanding what that means. Is it just using a target account list and running programmatic media against that? I think we know it's a lot more than that. It's an entire go-to-market strategy. And for us, our clients were very interested in figuring out how to, use the go-to-market principles of ABM, but maybe not ready to make an investment in a full feature platform, right? So we had the opportunity with Demandbase to leverage your software for our clients under tenant seats, which has been wonderful. Really gives our clients, our B2B clients, the opportunity to dip their toes into ABM and start to understand some of the benefits, start to realign some of the marketing KPIs internally, and really pull sales into that whole process. So we've been thrilled with the partnership so far, and are, going to keep moving forward with what we're doing, and hopefully showing our clients how ABM really works, and eventually getting them into their own version of their own platform that has a little more capability.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up, because we're obviously thrilled to have Goodway as a partner as well. And I do think it's kind of a marriage made in heaven, because as you said, a lot of clients aren't ready to get kind of fully into ABM. And so I think we've talked about this before. Many of our clients, when they say ABM, even our most mature ABM or ABX clients, started really with advertising. And that's, in their mind, that was like, they have a target account list. They've worked with sales to define that list. And really, as they are looking to drive more efficiencies, it starts with advertising. And so I think this partnership is really great, because, as you said, it gives Goodway the opportunity to work with some of our shared clients to get their kind of first initial crawl into account-based marketing. And then the hope is, and as they get exposed to more data, as they get exposed to what account-based marketing really can be for their organization, it just will, and it's proven to grow from there. So we're really super excited about the partnership as well. And again, happy to have this conversation with you. So we'll just kind of jump into the questions. I think starting with, I think it's what's new is old, and what's old is new. It's like the recession, and these, if you're over 40, you've been through this before. So, and we'll be through this again, and this time will pass. But, I'm curious, as you're meeting with prospective customers or clients today, what are some of the trends, and what are you hearing from clients around, again, the topic of doing more with less?
Yeah, I think that's why, not only has ABM kind of come into its own as a go to market strategy over the last few years, especially, but I think a lot of our clients are seeing that, not only do they not want to be left behind when it comes to marketing technology, but kind of traditional inbound strategies that are super reliant on form fills are just not as effective. If 3% of the traffic to your website is filling out a form, does that mean 97% of your traffic is not qualified? I think also with our clients that have more complex buying cycles, lots of stakeholders, decision makers, influencers, they see that this is not a single person based approach and there's not one person that they need to go after, but rather a committee. And then also kind of third party data sources, especially intent. We definitely hear a lot about, how can I leverage intent to find those prospects of mine, out of my total addressable market that's in market right now, whether that's, generalized topics that I really care about or even my competitors, and being able to leverage and know what those accounts that fit my ICP are doing, not necessarily on my site, but, anywhere online.
Yeah, that those are all, yes. I mean, really good points, and I mean, we're seeing the same thing at Demandbase. Are you seeing that because of the economy and because people are kind of pulling back a bit, that just impacts their greater, like their go to market, just more generally speaking? Like what types of shifts and how they're using data and technology to impact their go to market with efficiencies in mind?
Yeah, it really depends on the client, the competitiveness in the category, how well their brand is indexing in that category. In terms of, are we going to continue with this kind of broad message of awareness, or are we going to leverage some of the principles of ABM to be able to narrow our advertising dollars, our marketing dollars to the accounts that truly are in market right now? I think there's some stat that out of your total addressable market, only 20% are going to be in market in a given year. So that's only 5% a quarter. So if you're, spending 95% of your budget in a quarter against accounts that aren't in market, is that really the most effective way to leverage those dollars that are becoming more and more precious? So I think, our clients understand it's not just about taking this target account list that sales has given me that they think are going to be a great fit for our platform, but let's use our ICP, let's use firmographics, let's use intent data, let's use technographics, right? If there's software that works better with my software than others, to prioritize those impressions against kind of the highest value, most in market accounts and those relevant stakeholders within the accounts. And then I think more importantly, even than that, with ABM is really bubbling up that data at the right time to sales or even customer success teams to help them support, net new revenue or account growth or account renewals, things like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you brought up a lot of really great points there. And I think what strikes me often in conversations with customers is there's this like, we don't have the budget to go after our entire ICP. And of course, if they had the budget to go after their entire ICP, would say, yeah, an always on strategy, continuously being in market, warming those accounts. But conversations I've had with customers, it's not about spending more and not being, again, to marketing to your entire ICP, but using the data to really inform your strategy. And as you said, using the data to make sure you're investing in the accounts that are actually showing that they're in market, and basically let the customer drive the experience, right? Let the data, what the data is telling us, and let the customer who's raising their hand, showing intent, dictate where you're making your investments. And so it's always about all of our conversations pre-recession, we're about it's doing more with less, and just making sure that every dollar that you're spending is, like you said, going to an account that's actually in market, showing intent, is, and there's all lots of ways of using that first and third party data. So maybe that's the kind of the next question is, what are some examples of how Goodway on behalf of your clients are leveraging both first party and third party data to kind of solve some of those efficiency challenges?
Yeah. So kind of mentioned, our clients, everyone is kind of at different points with their own first party data and, how clean it is and how usable it is. But for the most part, our clients have like a marketing automation platform and a CRM. And that is all super valuable data that we can either use to help model what the next best customer looks like against the ICP and against the accounts that have purchased and that do have a high ACV. So that's a wonderful use of first party data. Also, anybody that's visiting the site, we love the ability to de-anonymize traffic to our clients' websites at the account level, and understand the, pages within the site that that prospect is visiting. In terms of competitors, right? If there, for instance, is a competitor price hike, let's use technographic data, that sort of third party data, to target anyone that has that competitor installed, and let's push our messaging about why our solution is better in front of those potential converters over to our brand, right?
Right.
And then, and it's not just programmatic, right? It is pushing all of those relevant audiences, potentially to paid search, modifying bids against them, right? So if you did come to my site and you do fit my ICP and I know who you are at the account level, cool, let's set up an audience for paid search, and let's modify our bids accordingly to really be bidding again on those competitor terms or any of those other competitors as that person looks to make a switch.
Right. Yeah. No, exactly. It's so interesting. So as technology and the data has evolved, I mean, I remember even a couple of years ago, everything that you described, we were doing that very manually, right? So we were taking account lists and having to layer on intent data, layer on engagement data, create segments, the top of funnel, bottom of funnel, and mid funnel segments, and then manually make sure that we were creating those segments and through advertising and through, to your point, other channels, making sure that we were hitting the right audience with that message. But now with data and speaking to Demandbase and the data that's native to our DSP and to our platform, all of that journey stage orchestration and automation is built into the tool. So again, I mean, I think back to like, how do you create greater efficiencies and effectiveness in your campaigns, whether it's display or whatever channel you're using? It is letting the data and letting the data drive those decisions, because the data really reflects where a customer is in their journey with your prospect, your customer. All really interesting and good points. You mentioned, I think at some point too, just like, or I'm curious about like where brand and demand overlap and like how you're addressing that with your customers.
Yeah. So, I kind of did kind of touch on awareness and looking at, making sure that the brand is top of mind when a particular account is in market, and certainly awareness has its place. But the demand team, is super focused on, and it depends on where you're at in your transition. If you are moving from a traditional kind of inbound model to more of an ABM model, I think some of our clients are making that transition right now from kind of like that CPL based model, right? Like, how many MQLs can I get? How many of those can I get to SQL? And that's really that, individual person based approach, versus ABM, which is really thinking about the whole account, all of the decision makers and influencers that are within the account, and really changing even marketing's KPIs, and thinking about things like pipeline and how marketing is generating revenue. And it's not seen by the C-suite as, a cost center, but rather a revenue generator. So in making that transition, that's kind of a long way to get to my point, which is, we try to implement a crawl, walk, run approach, because it really is a fundamentally different way of working between sales and marketing. It's less about marketing doing all of that work up until the handoff, right? And it's more about providing sales with the right information at the right time, the warm and the right timed outbound to the account or the person within the account, not like the top of funnel inbound who just downloaded a white paper and isn't really ready to talk to anyone. So we think of it as kind of a double funnel, where we can run that kind of traditional inbound motion while we're testing out and gaining advocacy among the sales group on this ABM motion and starting to shift those KPIs again away from MQLs and CPLs to things that really matter, which is pipeline and revenue.
It's so funny when you bring that up, because I'm still always shocked how many times we're asked to deliver on a CPL, right? And you're like, to your point earlier, like the Forrester very outdated stat, but 2% of people actually fill out a form. And by the time they do, they're so far along, you've missed so many opportunities to engage that customer. And if they do fill out a form, it's like literally probably the last step in their evaluation. And so, but I am kind of constantly shocked how many times we're tasked with, or asked, we push back on the fact that this is a metric that the agency or the client is insisting upon. And it just seems like such an outdated metric. And
Yeah, I've said this to clients before too, right? The last kind of KPI that you want to give me as your agency is a CPL KPI, right? Because an agency, if that's what you say is your KPI, they can go and get leads, right? They can go and buy leads. They can go on Facebook, run lead ads, $7 pop, whatever, right? Like we can go and get leads. Are they going to be good leads? Are they going to turn into revenue? Are they in your ICP, right? So thinking about readjusting, the KPIs, not only for the internal marketing team, but also the KPIs that you provide to your agency partners so that it is in line with the business objectives.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. Leads are easy to come by, right? But I mean, as somebody who was formerly in sales, like I've had the benefit of using the Demandbase platform, and I have access to all of our data. But being in a world where somebody's just passing me a lead, there's not a lot I can do with that lead, right? And in a world where I used to work leads, I mean, there was very little value in those leads. So, it just logically makes sense. We're getting through using data in a platform like Demandbase, where you can bring in your customers, in your case, your client's first party data, marry that with Demandbase data, our ability to de-anonymize traffic to their website, understand intent, layer on technographic data, and have a full understanding of what's happening in the account. Then you really can use data to inform that strategy and to inform how you're measuring the impact. And you are really not just personalizing you have the opportunity to personalize the message, but you're also personalizing that, you're ensuring through personalization that you're getting to the right contact at the right time with the right message.
Right. Yeah. So, if you're an SDR, right, you don't want like a lead that came in, right? Like just a lead with no context and no real idea about it, right? What's your follow-up? What's your next move? Is this person even if they are a target account that we care about, are they someone that has any kind of influence, right? Like instead, why not let marketing hand you like a marketing qualified account, an account that's been multi-threaded, right? Where we've used like content syndication to find more people within the account for you to reach out. So I have this like beautiful package of a marketing qualified account that I can pass over to an SDR and say, oh, by the way, here's all of the terms that they're researching. Make that the subject line of your outbound to them, like right now while they're researching it.
Right. Exactly. And it's timely. I mean, I can even think of, I'm now in the position too where I'm buying some software. So I've been called in by BDRs and SDRs who are selling me software. And it is amazing to me because I'm doing a lot of research and I'm online and I'm dropping a lot of signals that I'm in market. And it's obvious to me when somebody uses a tool like Demandbase, they have access to the data and they're able to tailor their message to where I'm at, the customer in my process, versus those that aren't, that are using very old school ways of just basically spamming the market and spamming me without, and then those that have missed the mark because they haven't been on my radar because they aren't using data and the teams aren't aligned.
Right.
And so it's really, it's really interesting. I saw a graph recently, which was really simple graph, but it was basically, marketing and sales alignment and the handoff. But this was just about the graph was showing like that marketing and sales are, it's a combined effort, right? It's a collaboration. And it was a really simple way of illustrating that. So, I mean, I don't mean to go back to the brand and demand, but I've just working with customers at Demandbase, I do find that is an opportunity, especially when budgets are tighter, right? And they demand, to your point earlier, should be focusing on accounts that are in market, that are showing intent. Why waste budget on accounts that are not raising their hand, aren't intent, and still need to be warmed. Are you seeing that some of your clients are more aligned with their brand teams and that they are kind of looking to brand to also leverage the data? And it always strikes me that why brand should also have an account-based approach, right? Just because you're branding doesn't mean it has to be wasteful.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, for our clients, I give them kudos because a lot of them already kind of have joined those teams together. And we have different, ABM plays that we go to market with depending on how in market accounts are, right? And the data that we're getting back. For our clients, I don't see that kind of segregation anymore between the brand marketing per se, and then, the product marketing or the, ABM approach. They really are thinking about intent, especially, right? We have a client where all we did was put intent on top of their, out of what we were running. That was it.
Mhm.
And their CPAs decreased 40% just by using intent to make sure that we're only targeting people that are in market. So we do have to get smarter, especially with what's going on, outside of just our marketing bubble, about the money that we're spending and, being more focused on finding those people that are in market and less around like that kind of generalized brand awareness and using every dollar really smartly. Even, our clients are looking at like their partners if they sell through channel and
Mhm.
like reevaluating, what they are willing to support or not support, right? Is this like purely a branding play or is this something that's actually going to drive, real results for you and for me?
Yeah. Well, as we know in our partnership, right? I mean, yeah, with cuts comes, limited resources, and we're all kind of doing more with less, even than the resources of people that we have. So we're being much more selective of, who we're partnering with and how we're going to market. And it can't just be a feel good, like we're supporting each other's brands. It actually has to demonstrate that we're driving to revenue impact for both the partner, for both partners, right? So that's a really interesting point as well. Well, as I kind of said at the top of the conversation, in my mind and kind of Demandbase's position since the inception of the company, we've always been about creating greater efficiencies through an account-based approach. That's kind of the core of account-based marketing. But specifically with our advertising product, our tagline has always been around zero waste and then making sure that every dollar is spent wisely. You touched on this a little bit in the beginning of the conversation, but from a reporting standpoint, what are you as an agency? We talked about CPL, but as an agency are you tasked with making sure that or how are you measuring attribution and reporting when it comes to advertising and other channels?
Yeah, I mean, we really rely on that kind of two-way connection between Demandbase, right, and the client CRM to be able to look at pipeline and deals, right, to know, and it helps with the modeling too, right? Like with the predictive modeling, like we can make sure that we are going out and finding accounts that are just like that one that just closed for a bunch of money, right?
Right.
So, through the, connection that we have for our clients with Demandbase and CRMs, we can look at that attribution. Attribution is super important for all of our B2B clients. And it's for sure and it depends on the size of the organization and their data and how clean it is, but it is probably one of the biggest challenges that we see right now. So when we can be fully on board with leveraging a marketing technology to be able to tag all of our media and then tie impressions even back to like the value of the revenue and real ROI, that's kind of right. Like that's where we want to be with any of our clients so that we can continue to make the right data-driven decisions on where dollars go.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And bringing that measurement too to back to what matters to sales and speaking almost sales language, right? Sales executive language. It's like, did we accelerate pipeline? How did marketing influence revenue versus how many leads were passed over to the sales organization
Right.
last quarter? Um, Well, with a couple minutes we have remaining, is there anything else, Alicia, that we didn't touch on, that again, kind of like trends or what you're hearing from customers and prospects today that you think the audience should know about?
Yeah, I will say, we kind of historically, I think, as an organization, had looked at B2B in terms of things like job function or job title, right? And some of those kind of person-based attributes. And with, GDPR and, EMEA being where it is right now, I will say we're starting to move away from some of those person-based attributes when we're target, and that's why ABM kind of works out perfectly, because the intent plus your ICP, right, the firmographics plus technographics is really like the right recipe to find the right people. So I will say, as data is becoming less reliant and cookie pools are shrinking, there are lots of identity solutions that Goodway as a whole is testing and learning from. But from a B2B perspective, again, we're not so much focused on the person in the account, but the people within the account that are ultimately going to drive a decision.
Yeah, I want to say amen to that, right? Because that has always been Demandbase's approach and kind of our point of view on the market and our point of view on even account-based advertising. We're all about account first, and then we've been a real big proponent and believer in leveraging intent data, behavioral data, to indicate whether somebody's actually in the buying committee, right, and that they're going to be influential over that purchase. We do offer people-based, persona, known contact targeting and people-based targeting. But that's, that is in addition, it's almost like the trifecta, right? So, we know we're reaching the right account. We know we're reaching the individuals in the buying committee that based on intent would indicate they're in market, and then making sure that we're surrounding, both the account and those individuals. Again, it's obviously proven to be a really effective tactic. Well, so with that, I just want to say it's been a real pleasure, Alicia, to have this conversation. Thank you for all the insights on what you're hearing in the marketplace and hearing from your customers and prospects. At Demandbase, we really appreciate the partnership with Goodway and the partnership with you personally. And we're looking forward to solving some of these problems for our shared customers moving forward. So again, thank you for the time.
Yeah, thanks so much for that, Vanessa. It was really great, and looking forward to continuing to work together.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you all.